Alright, so, this past weekend was Maker Faire. If you were paying any attention at all, you've already seen a ton of cool stuff coming out of there. Some more weirdness coming up for you there. In the meantime, I picked up a kit from Evil Mad Scientist. Thank you so much for giving me this. It is really exciting to get to put this together. They had their, like, one of their giant, integrated circuits there. They also had some, old 555 and other circuits that were little chips, but they were like round in little cans, metal cans, instead of in these more modern chips form factor. And they had cut the tops off and put them underneath a microscope so that you could have a look up close at what these things looked like, as well as like an LED array and things like that. So if you look at our Instagram, you will find that, and it's super cool, as well as links to their profiles and stuff. So Evil Mad Scientist is a group based out of Sunnyvale, California, and they have a ton of cool kits, but this is one of my favorites because it takes the 555, which is a classic timer circuit, used for many things, from like synchronizing things, sensitive things like motor control and stuff, all the way to generating electronic music. There may be a bunch of different companies, and they've just blown it up so that it is, you can solder it by hand. It's super cool. Yeah, so let's have a look at this. One thing that Wendell told me, so Wendell and Lenore are the two sort of head honchos there, and this is apparently kind of a special edition because it's got this red and blue, these markings on here, rather than normal. I think they would just be white. So that's super cool. We've got a bunch of transistors in here, super clearly labeled, a bunch of resistors, and another wallet with more resistors, which are labeled in there. Then we've got these screws to make terminals for it, and this beautiful sort of brushed aluminum set of legs that form the chip legs. Super cool. So let's put this together. So it's Tuesday, and often I'll do like a teardown Tuesday. I'm trying to do more of those actually because they're really fun. But in the meantime, I'm also cheating a bit and doing some tear up Tuesdays, as in the opposite of teardowns. I don't know. It's fun to put stuff together. So yeah. So check it out. We've got the main board here, which is super pretty. It's also made of metal. Whoo! Wait, or is it like multiple layers of... Oh, that's still fiberglass. Okay, it's just heavy. And it's definitely got this sort of beautiful matte black finish, which is my favorite. Oh, it's so good. And their little logo on there as well. So, it comes with these assembly instructions, which make it super easy to put together. So we've got the circuit board with the threaded mount inserts. That's these guys. Threaded inserts here. The transistors, there's two different kinds of them, totaling 26. There are the IC legs made of aluminum. There's a bunch of resistors, thumb screws, red and black indicating voltage and ground, and mounting screws and spacers for the legs. Cool. I need a soldering iron. Oh yeah. Solder, small little wire clippers. Definitely got those. Come here. There we go. I got magnets stuck to everything, so here we go. And a Phillips head screwdriver. This is close enough. I should do it. Let's see. Oh, pardon me. They tell you how to solder stuff, but I have soldered a bunch of stuff in the past, so I should be able to handle this. So they recommend that we add the resistors first, which is pretty standard practice because they're very low to the board, and so they're not really going to interfere with you putting other stuff on. You don't even have to know how to read resistor color values, which is really nice, because I like to test myself by doing that, but it's also really nice because I sometimes mess up. And they've got oh, it's so pretty. I'm really gonna enjoy this, I think. Ooh, my third hand is a little wussy and might not be able to handle it. Oh no! There are some really cool PCB vices and stuff out there, by the way, in case you are looking for a better PCB holding solution while you're soldering stuff. Yeah. There's plenty of cool stuff. Let's see. So 4.7K resistors are one. Oh, they're also labeled on here. Cool. So I'm just gonna actually take this out of the thingy and start putting these in by hand. I think this should be about the right width. Yeah, that looks good. Cool. And then I'm bending these outwards on the bottom so that it stays nice and stable and low to the board. Okay, R3 is 4.7. I'm going to refocus a little bit for you so that this is more visible. Or maybe I'll just bring the camera down. Ah, ha, ha. It's not that tall. Colliding with things a little bit. Okay. There we go. Alright. Let's keep going. It's a little hard to work with the camera this far down, but I think it's going to work out better for us. R3 here. In case you missed it, on Saturday we had Catterday, where we released the LED cat ears project with Anouk Viprecht. If you log into Hackster.io, you will see the most recent videos and cool projects that we're publishing in collaboration, and those will be highlighted on the front page, along with just like independently submitted projects that we think are really cool. So, you know, if you make something amazing with a nice tutorial, you could see yourself on the Hackster front page as well. But in the meantime, if you look there, you will find super cool stuff that we're making in collabs, including the Women in Hardware interview series and the ARM Innovator interview series and more things like this. Coming up, I'm going to share a little bit about my AI robotic owl that I made for Maker Faire. That's going to be showing up at a couple more events soonish, but you can also find the tutorial online. It's made with the Google AIY Vision Kit. That one's a little off-center, but I think I can forgive myself. 3 more of these to go. It kind of depends on the like sharpness of your thumbnails, among other things. Like how exactly these get bent. Mine are pretty short because I always have problems like keeping them clean when I'm like messing around with electronics all day. I find it's a lot easier to just keep them super short. Let's see, here, R15. Because no matter how much I wash my hands, I'm still getting lead everywhere and stuff. And like random bits of sort of metal residue. There's one more somewhere. 9K. Okay, let's see. What do they say? R3, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 15. Oh, there we go. Right here. I'm just going to put all of these in first and then solder them and clip them off. Okay. I'm not going for aesthetics here. I could try to align all of the color stripes going the same way. It doesn't matter because they're non-polar. As you can see, I've got, you know, a couple of them oriented opposite from each other. That's fine. It's fine. I decided a long time ago not to care about that, but it's something to keep in mind if you are building it for yourself and you want to have a certain aesthetic. So now we have this cool resistor wallet that they've included for the rest of them. With stickers holding them in place and stuff. That's super cool. What else have we got? The table. Okay. This 820 ohm resistor is R2. These ones have slightly thinner leads. And they are blue. My favorite color. pretty obviously. The robot owl is blue also. I just happen to work at a company whose colors are also blue. 1K ohm is an R4. Oh boy, I keep hitting this camera. I told you it was going to be a little bit hairy working with it this way. $10K is R5. Where are we putting that? Down there on the left. R6 is 100K. Trying to get these fairly even. Another thing you might have seen around is a resistor bender. You can actually find these on Thingiverse and other places, so you can print your own, 3D print them. But basically it's just a little sort of graduated, tapered sort of length of plastic that has markings for how wide to bend your resistor legs. And so it's just a little piece of tapered plastic, kind of like this, and you put your resistor in the proper place, set it down across the taper, and push its legs down, and then you have a perfect bend every time. I don't have one of those. I should probably print one, but too lazy. R17 is also another 100K. But it's a good, like, first, 3D printer project if you're looking for something to make, to sort of jazz up your hardware space. $15K is R10. I've been thinking about making a 555 timer-based electric bass, and this seems like an excellent component for that. Let's see, where was I? 15K, R10. And when I squeeze this together, I'm just using my finger on the back of it to push the legs apart. 6.8K is going to be R12. An interesting thing about these resistors is the legs are different lengths. That's not normally something that I see on resistors. It doesn't mean anything. Like on LEDs and stuff, you'll see that the longer leg is positive and the shorter leg is negative. But in this case, it really doesn't mean anything, because resistors are nonpolar, no matter what. I mean, there may be some edge cases that I don't know about that are like super industrial or scientific, but I am not aware of any such thing. 3.9K is going to be R13. You will see other variations in resistors, though. Things like how many bands they have on them, like color bands indicating the number, whether that's 4 or 5 or whatever. 220 ohms is going to be our R14. And we've just got one left after this. Then we get to solder everything. R14, yeah. Here we go. And just to show you, I just hold it like this and then smoosh down to either side, and it holds it in place. Then 100 ohms is R16, and we are done with these. Goodbye. Oh yeah, tune in tomorrow for some stuff about the robot owl. I'm really stoked about that. His name's Archimedes. And uses a Raspberry Pi 0W and an Arduino Maker 1000. It could be any Arduino, I just use the Maker 1000 because it's small and therefore good for a wearable design. Okay, cool. I don't think I even need to stick this in the holder because it's pretty easy to work with. So, oh, let me flip on my soldering iron now. Should have done that before. And let's grab our solder. Little brass coil. Stick the soldering iron tip in there in order to clean it off. Avoiding putting my lead fingers where I'm drinking from. Very important. Did you know I have a cat? We have an office cat. It's my mug. It doesn't have a name. Yet. If you've got a good idea for an office cat mug name, then you're weird. But let me know. Are we hot enough yet? Looks like it. Okay. I'm going in fairly random order here. The main things I need to make sure of are that I'm not shorting out any pins to each other. I need a little bit of solder on the tip of the iron just to make good thermal contact with the both the pad that I'm soldering to and the leg of the resistor. Then I try and get the solder, actual solder wire down in there, touching both of those and not the iron. That way it adheres to those. If I went by a system, it would be a lot easier to tell like what I've done and what I haven't done, but I'm a little lazy for that. So I'm just gonna go with whatever. I'm not going to be able to test this today because I don't have a speaker in the office and I want to do that, but I am going to pull that out tomorrow. So if you're going to be upset by not having a demo at the end of this video, then maybe like tune out now and come back tomorrow where you can see the rest of the build and then also the demo. But I should be able to get this all soldered up today, which is exciting. I've totally wanted one of these for ages. And I told them that at the fair, and they're like, well, hey. And I was like, hey, what? And they were like, handed me one of these, and I was just like, so excited. It's such a nerdy gift, and yet it's so easy to put together. I love it. I feel like it should have googly eyes. Like, why does this not ship with googly eyes? Come on, guys. I have received some criticism for not wearing safety goggles while I solder. That is a valid criticism. I still never think to do it. I'm gonna try and get better at that, just because setting a good example is a good thing. In these videos, I'm typically keeping my face far enough away that I'm not gonna get globs of molten solder in my eyes. That is a possible risk when you're soldering. Or flux, you know. I often, you know, like anyone, I'll get occasional, like, little hand globs of flux, which only stings for a moment and doesn't actually leave any damage. The only other thing you gotta watch out for is, like, when you're cutting off these legs, and in that case I tend to hold it down with my finger, like this. Makes it really easy to cut it off, and to move the legs out of the way when you cut them. Ah! My things are sticking together a little bit here because I had them overlapping, but that's fine. Now, when Anouk was here last week, rather than rotating the board to cut off the other direction ones, she would just use her other hand like this, and I can't do that because I'm not... Well, maybe I can. Let's try something new. Oh, it works! It feels a little less precise, but, like, that's okay. Yeah, definitely slower with my left hand here. But, yeah. Making sure to clean off all of the clippings so that they don't short out. Like, get them away from your work area. I hope that anyone who came to Maker Faire this past weekend had an awesome one. And if I ran into you, well, I'm sure it was great to see you. Oh, I missed one there. There was an awesome time that we had at Bring a Hack, which is the annual dinner at BJ's on the Sunday night after Maker Faire closes. And that's where you'll see the sort of absolute height of nerdery. It's really fun to catch up with everybody there, because, yeah, people just having a good time. It was sponsored by Oshpark. Thank you, Oshpark, for doing that, bringing us all together. Trying to make sure that I don't clip off the one that I missed soldering. There we go. Obviously, it's kind of nice to do all your soldering in a big batch so that you can do this bit all at once. Super fast. Okay, one more. And clip them obviously as close to the board as possible, then you get a nice neat sort of finish. I'm hella slouching. That's what happens when I'm trying to duck under the camera and stuff. Alright, alright. Away with you! Oh, brought a trash can over here so I can get this stuff out of the way immediately. Actually, so there's all these little wire clippings, right? So Sar Drimmer of Boldport, aka the Boldport Subscription PCB Club, makes a bunch of art PCBs, and he tries often to incorporate these off legs as part of the connections so that you're not wasting extra wire, and that's super cool. What we've got coming up next is the transistors. Identify the strip of 13 2N3904 transistors and gently remove them from the tape. Install them, blah blah blah. Transistor orientation is very important. That is true. So we've got 3904s and 3906s. I could be wrong. I'm gonna check this, but I think the 04s are NPN and the other ones are PNP. Let's double check that. I could be spreading lies. That would be bad. Let's see. 2N3904 is an NPN, and 3906 is a PNP. Oh, so right! So the difference between NPN and PNP transistors, these are both BJTs, or bipolar junction transistors, and the difference is that an NPN is basically you have a gate signal in the middle here, and that basically tells it whether or not to let electricity flow through it. And then it's going to flow from the source to the drain. And it depends on, so the NPN ones, that refers to the type of, like, the orientation of the material inside, the semiconductor material inside the transistor. NPN does not allow electricity to flow through it unless that gate is high. And for the PNP one, it's vice versa. It allows power to flow through it unless it's got power coming into the gate. And you need a common ground to make sure that that's working. Okay, so, they have each 3904 and 3906 labeled on here. Awesome. So, yeah. They're all labeled. I'm just gonna go for it. Oh, interesting. So these are actually a little bit wider than our pins allow for. Probably just so that they could fit everything onto this board. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of wrangling here with the legs. Note that there's a flat side to the guide on the circuit board, and that aligns with the flat side of the transistor. Okay. I do these pretty much the same way as the resistors. Bend them outwards like this. The middle one I just leave up, But there are a number of other ways to do it. If you noticed in the Catterday video, Anouk does it with the LEDs so that they go. I push them both, or the resistors both, like outwards, and same with LEDs, just directly away from each other. And she does this kind of like next to each other, going in different directions thing, which I tend to find makes it a little more difficult to get them really close up to the board. But you know, to each their own. I'm not going to question someone like that. Go in there! Oh, it clicks in there so nicely though. So 1 through 4, 14 through 18, 20 through 22, and 24 are going to be these NPN ones. The 3904s. I think you'll also see PN2222 transistors, and I think those are, depending on the letter that comes after them, maybe they're like NPN versus PNP, but that's like another common number of transistor that you'll find. So there's a few different kinds of transistors too. There's BJTs, which are these little bipolar junction transistors, and then there's FETs, field effect transistors, and MOSFETs, which is something semiconductor. I don't totally remember what the distinction is, but if you're curious about transistors, that's a whole rabbit hole to go down. And FETs are more usually used in like audio applications and stuff. Sorry for the noises. I have to fight with these a little bit to get them in there. So where's 14? Because here's 15, 16, and 17. And there's 18. Don't know. I'll find it. Yeah, this is a little more complex when you've got to get all three of them sort of bent into the right spot. Yeah. And when you have 3 legs to bend as well, it becomes a little bit more complex. But we'll get them done. There's other cool circuits that, I mean, there's a bajillion different cool circuits that use transistors and stuff. I'd be curious to see what some of your favorites are. It's always fascinating because, you know, I've got a certain amount of experience with this, but always curious to learn more. That's a great thing about this community is, like, people are often super friendly and helpful. Oh, here's number 14. And when they're positive about it, that's awesome. I did see some like negative comments on Maker Faire posts over the weekend, and that was really discouraging because you know, people were saying that they only follow for the tech, and that Maker Faire's entire audience is only there for the tech, and that people who aren't posting tech don't belong. And to be honest, like, it's not just about tech, and I'm not super excited about everything that I see at Maker Faire, but I understand it as a blended community, right? Making is not restricted to just tech. If you go to Maker Spaces, you'll see sewing, you'll see, you know, other kinds of crafting, you'll see music making, all kinds of different things. Maker Spaces and Hacker Spaces, including Noisebridge, our local one, which is quite famous and the basis for a lot of other ones. Like, we have an amazing sewing area with a huge amount of fabric and stuff that anyone can use, as well as a huge laser cutter and stuff like that. So, you know, it's like, why artificially limit yourself? There's no point. Plus, to be honest, the only thing there isn't room for is people being jerks to each other about what they're making, like in gatekeeping and stuff. That's the only thing that's not cool. So whether you're into tech or like fabric or whatever, there's definitely space for you if you're willing to hang out with other cool nerds and like be excited about what you're doing. And oh no, you might even learn something from each other. But yeah, having been on the board of Noisebridge as well as All Hands Active, Hackerspace, and helped found this community as well, there's a ton of like this sort of always comes up in online communities and physical communities. Like, you have to draw a line at some point of behavior just to make it remain a positive community where people want to be. That's the thing, like, that's what a community is, right? If you want to restrict your world to tech, then you can sort of do it by yourself. Or create your own community, you know? But if you're gonna try and police one, then maybe you don't belong there. And that's fine. Because, you know, there's plenty of people out there. You can have your awesome tech-only community. And I hope that you would have a good time with it. Because it takes all kinds to make a world. But yeah, artificially policing other people and what they're posting, so lame. So anyway, if you're curious about this, we have a code of conduct for the Hackster community. It's Hackster.io/conduct. And if you're worried that it would, you know, people would use it to bring up stuff against you or like to attack you, there's really no need to be worried, because the code of conduct lays out very clearly what is and isn't, what does and doesn't apply. So, you know, no one can really use it against you unless you're doing something that is weird. And if you're worried about, you know, what if I accidentally do something weird, then just read the code of conduct and you'll be fine. I guess I shouldn't say weird, because weird is great. But you know what I mean. I guess it's like any form of nerdery, like, you know, video games, or people nerd out about politics, people nerd out about science, people nerd out about art, people nerd out about movies. Any of those situations, you're gonna get people trying to, like, dictate what it is and claim it as their own. And in all those situations, all you can really do is be like, hey peeps, if you got something to say it in a nice way. And that is how we move forward. To be clear, I'm talking only specifically about these incidents on the Maker Faire account, where I don't want to send anyone there because it really doesn't deserve any more attention than it has. But to be more specific, it involved someone cussing out somebody else, which, like, it should be pretty obvious at that point that the person who belongs is the one who's not cussing out the other person. Yeah, there's obviously mitigating circumstances no matter what, but if it's unprovoked, I'm gonna stop talking about this now and get back to the soldering, because that's really more fun for me. And that's the thing, you know. We gotta talk about it every now and then just to keep the expectations clear. But the goal is to have a society where we don't have to bring this up, where we don't have to make rules like this. And that keeps everybody happy. Let's clip some leads. This is so satisfying. This is like, oh man. It's like the most fun part of soldering. Well, besides, there's so much actually that's like really a delightful sensory experience about this. Like, there's the soldering and like watching the little silver solder beads solidify, and there's this clipping part that's just like really satisfying. Of course, when you look at it at the end and like everything's all nice and assembled, but also at the very beginning when you look at it and everything's all nice and clean before you get flecks all over it. Building anything is going to make it a little messy, but so it goes. Yeah, tomorrow I'm going to talk about how I built this robot owl, Archimedes, and also some of the stuff that went wrong with it, because that was a huge amount of learning experiences in and of itself. And some of the unexpected stuff that happened made the project actually better than it would have been otherwise. Um, yeah, there were some scaling issues, but those just ended up making it cuter. You know how robots and animals and stuff with bigger heads look cuter? I think it's some biological thing where, you know, the juvenile members of any species typically have larger heads, and so we see them as kind of childlike and innocent and cute and curious and stuff. So I accidentally made the rest of the body of the owl rather smaller, just because, you know, I couldn't see it in real life before it existed. I was just going off the sort of like back of the envelope calculations about how big stuff should be. And so he ended up with a big head and like a little body, and he looks really, really cute. Okay, time for more transistors. Time for the PNP ones. 2N3906. Let's go for it. And after that, like, I think this is the last soldering we actually have to do. Yeah. Oh, so cool. We're nearing the end, folks, but it's gonna be still plenty of fun to be had. What if I just kind of squeeze these two in while I'm doing this? Can I get it all in one go? It's hard. There we go. I guess I'm not done talking about community. If you don't mind, you can always like turn the sound off and just watch if you want. But um, having a code of conduct also just sends a message that you're inclusive. And when I say inclusive, there's this whole notion that kicking anyone out for bad behavior is exclusive or exclusionary and makes your group on the whole like weaker or poorer intellectually, and that's basically the opposite of the truth, because by allowing those people to remain, what you're doing is excluding people who are more excellent. Because their presence means that other people feel unwelcome or unworthy to be part of the community. And that's like not what we want to encourage. The more that you pay attention to who's being a positive contributor, and you know, everyone has life stuff that they go through. It's not like everyone has to be all smiles all the time. But if people are being actively antipathetic to other members of the community, like, that means that maybe the nice people won't come back. And you'll end up with just a bunch of mean people being mean to each other because they can handle it. And again, you know, they can found their own community, and that's awesome. And I'm sure, and they make lots of cool stuff, you know. There's plenty of people of different temperaments and stuff. But yeah, I know plenty of people who are going through stuff in their lives and whatever, and they still manage to be perfectly nice to other people. So yeah, having a code and abiding by it is pretty much the most inclusive thing that you can do. Alright, let's see, we've got 5 more of these. There's some great examples online as well if you're starting your own community for codes of conduct. Oh, another thing, I just started listening to Mark Frauenfelder and Kevin Kelly's Cool Tools podcast. That's kind of a cool one. They talk about neat... I'm going to focus in a little bit more here because I keep getting out of focus. There we go. They got a neat weekly podcast where they have guests on, and they talk about, you know, their recommendations for different tools that people use for building technology. And the one that I listened to this morning was with Scotty, who does Strange Parts, the YouTube video channel. And so he was talking about you know, different video tools that he uses. So it's not all just like for building technology, it's also about like how you share that information, how you get yourself to do stuff. Mark and Kevin and Claudia Dawson also run a newsletter called Recommendo, which is a mailing list that's a sort of similar concept, just stuff that makes their lives better and easier. And I've found that really useful over the last like couple months. I haven't been much of a podcast person in the past, but I'm getting into it. It's kind of cool. You can speed them up and kind of quickly absorb a lot of information or insights or, yeah, from all kinds of different people. Alright, almost done. Then we're going to solder these, and then we're going to assemble the rest of the physical bits. Okay, so some of these are kind of bent weird. Doing the transistor bending on the bottom of the board can lead to some weird little situations, but we'll work with it. I love watching the solder run up the leg of the transistor. I don't know if you can see that from there, but it's really cool. Ooh. Should have done this other one first. And that's basically just an indicator that you're heating the leg well enough so that the solder actually wicks up it. And that's a good thing to see. Because if it's not doing that, at least a little bit, like on thicker legs it's not going to do that at all. Maybe thinner legs actually, because the leg would cool. But anyway, ooh, I might get some shorting here. I'm going to have to check that out with the clippers later on. Yeah, that's totally shorting. So that one resistor and that transistor there kind of want to be friends more than I want them to be friends. Most of these are fine because the leg of the transistor is contacting another solder pad, but it's just going to get clipped off, so that's fine. Ooh, you need to actually see what I'm doing. Yeah, this is a little bit more dense, so I'm probably going to leave a few of these unsoldered and come back to them. Having the camera in here is definitely a little special as well. Extra special. I'm trying not to get too hasty with it though. What a cool kit this is. It's so cool looking. And again, yeah, it totally needs googly eyes. I think I can get this one. Yeah, there we go. And this guy, I'm just gonna go for it. Oh no. Get you out of the way. There's definitely some shorting when I cut that apart. Okay. But everything seems to be soldered. So let's clip these off. Just these two here, just like really want to be friends, and I really don't want them to. Yeah, that's clean. Yeah, so Scotty was talking about how he uses this USB microscope. Oh wait, no, it's not a USB one. He's used a USB one, but it wasn't like good enough visual quality. He uses one that is a stereo stereoscopic, I think he called it. I don't remember. But anyway, it's got two eye viewing ports so that you get parallax. You can get depth of field, 3D vision, which really helps in aligning stuff. But the fact that it really makes soldering small things much, much easier when you're able to do, you know, to see what you're doing. And he suggests that people could use this for like really small sewing projects and stuff too. What else? Like calligraphers have used it. He's donated one to Noisebridge, and I haven't had a chance to try it out yet, but it looks like a pretty cool machine. He also recommended The TV Be Gone by Mitch Altman, which I'm very familiar with, but mostly it's, you know, sort of sold as a tool for making your environment better in like sports bars or whatever. But to be honest, I just kind of tend to avoid sports bars to start with. But Scotty made the point that it's great for airports, where like you can tell that nobody's watching it or everyone hates it or whatever, and you can just turn that TV off and you'll be everybody's hero. So that's kind of great. There we go. That looks pretty solid. Just gonna try and double check for any shorts before I assemble this. Oh no, here's a short. Yeah. Got one up here between a transistor and a resistor. Again, it's like just, their pads are really close together, so I'm gonna take the iron to that. See if I can get them apart. Stop being friends. Friends are bad. Okay. Concluding our visual inspection. Cool. Awesome. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to turn off my soldering iron. And again, we're going to do the demo tomorrow, but I'm going to finish assembling it tonight because I'm really stoked. And before I put this back on here, I'm going to clean off all the little bits. This is going to require a lot of hand washing later because I'm just like smearing lead and flux all over my hands. But is it really a good day if you're not doing that to start with, you know? Yes, it can totally be a good day without that, but I'm a nerd. Okay, so what's next? Where'd my sheet go with all the info on it? I lost it. Have I? It seems unlikely. Oh. Ha. Okay, so, assembly part 3. Terminal posts and stand. Thread in the 8 thumb screws by hand. Black pin 1, ground, red pin 8, VCC, and then the rest of them are gray. Cute. So I'm going to thread these in from the top. Very pretty. Pin 1, as usual, is the bottom left here. You can also tell because there's a notch on the side, just like a real chip. Where's my real chip? Here we go. Yeah, check it out. It has the same notch on it. It's so cute. Okay. Ground is bottom left. Yeah. Neat. And if I have any trouble getting it in there, I'm gonna reverse thread it for a little bit. That helps keep you from cross-threading. Am I supposed to put it in the whole way? Sure, why not? Because especially with plastic screws and plastic threading, if it's pretty easy to just sort of force the screw in any which way, and that can lead to just destroying the threads. And so if you turn it to the left a bit, if it's a righty-tighty screw, you'll hear it just and feel it just sort of snap down, settle into its socket. And then you know that you've got it seated correctly and you're not going to accidentally damage it. There we go. You might have heard that little click on there. After this, I'm going to put the little legs on. And then after that, I think we add black skin. Oh. Hold the circuit board up on its side. From the top side of the board, slip a black screw through each of the 3 screw holes between the thumb screws. Aha! Then from the bottom side, slip a black plastic spacer over them. Maybe that keeps it from shorting out or something. Okay, so this guy has 3 little holes for the screws that attach it, and then 2 big ones to let these guys come through. So I'm gonna put these guys in. Then flip it over. And put this on. Oh wait, no, first I put on the little spacers. Okay. Go on. Go on there! Rawr. Here we go. Okay. Now, I put this on. Begin engaging the screws to trap the spacers in place. Ha! And then I tighten the 3 until just firm, but I've got to alternate which ones I do, so that they don't get misaligned or whatever. Let's give ourselves a little bit more visual space here, huh? They're being a little bit finicky, actually. I'm just going to start these off screen so I can make sure that they're happy. Oh, I see. So the anodized aluminum actually is not threaded. If you can see here, there's no little threads in those pilot holes there. And the fact that they called them pilot holes is also informative. Basically, aluminum is a pretty soft metal, and so what I'm doing here by tightening the screws is actually creating threads for them in the aluminum, which is why it's being a little bit harder than usual to screw them in, and that's why I was feeling that resistance. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can find a slightly better fitting screwdriver. Well, I did find a hammer, but that's not exactly what I want. So I'm going to stick with this guy for now. It doesn't seem to be like stripping out the screw heads or anything, So I'm just gonna keep going with this one. Oh yeah, actually it is a pretty solid fit, so I'm gonna keep just sort of alternating between these. Since my screwdriver is a little bit small, I am going to push inward really hard so that it seats as low as possible in the screw. Ooh! Yeah, this is a little bit of an arm workout. It's getting easier as they get tapped a little bit. It's called tapping when you create the screw threads because, you know, as the screw advances through the aluminum, it's creating threads, and the rest of the screw can sort of follow in those same grooves. I'm having a hard time not making jokes about how it got its groove back. But in this case, yeah, it's very important to make sure that I'm not accidentally making these crooked, because then it won't want to seat all the way down to the board. Okay. Alright, so that seems pretty solid. They're all kind of the same amount poking out of the aluminum thingy, and the spacers seem to be flush against both the circuit board and the aluminum. Cool! So now time for the other side. Put little screws in. Put the little spacers on. And stick the legs on. Just so they rest on those screws. Now I'm going to take it off screen again because this requires a little bit of elbow grease. Fortunately, I have plenty of that in the office, so I'm starting out by tightening each one a little bit into the aluminum and trying to make sure that they're all straight. So yeah, that's another reason why you want to alternate between the screws, because if you were to do one and then the others, then, you know, you'd end up with these crooked threads, if you're even capable of getting that to happen. Yeah. Erk. This middle one is giving me a little bit of grief. Ugh. But they are all even now. Cool. I'm just doing like one or two sort of half turns at a time on these. Ooh. You don't want to over tighten them, that's true, but I'm just trying to sort of gauge what is tight enough and what is overly tight, like whether the resistance comes from it literally being like as far as it can go, or just from the aluminum itself resisting the tapping process. Okay, cool, look at this. I really want it to have googly eyes, I really do. And I have a little 555 timer circuit totally assembled. Let's zoom out a little bit. See that baby hole. Cool. Well, I hope this has been enjoyable and informative. We talked about a lot of stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. And if not, I hope you turned your volume off so that I won't get a bunch of comments trolling me about codes of conduct. They have an example circuit here in the instructions. Testing and using your new 555 timer. So cool! They have this test circuit included, and they also have a bunch of links for support and stuff. You can check those out. Blog, store, it's all basically evilmadscientist.com. You can email them, contact@evilmadscientist.com. Thank you so much, Lenore and Wendell. This is so cool. I love it. Yeah, this special blue and red looks really cool on here. And just because we're here, I'm gonna show you a couple of other 555 chips. So there's this like, sorry, there's a breakout for the 555 called Crazy Circuits that goes on Lego, which is super weird. This one's surface mount, and this one is through hole. And I'm not going to show you too much of that because that's coming up again in a later episode. But and then here's the original sort of super tiny one. This is sort of a generic chip that's made by a bunch of different companies at this point, including like Texas Instruments and like whoever else. What is this one from? Oh, Freescale, I think. Yeah. Anyway, tons of different companies make them, and they're pretty cheap and super fun to play with if you are interested in sort of like getting down further into the nitty gritty of like how does electronics, how do electronic instruments and things like that. And I have a friend who's like totally obsessed with all the different kinds of circuits you can use a 555 for. For example, things like windshield wipers and stuff. You know, apparently that's what it first became popular for, but people still use it for all kinds of stuff. It's not always the best chip for the job, but it's very versatile, and you can use it to make stuff. And that's kind of what prototyping is all about. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Have an awesome rest of your Tuesday, and we'll be back tomorrow with a weird robot owl. Catch you later.